The world has crossed a quiet but alarming threshold. Today, June 17, 2025, intelligence confirms a stunning development. China now possesses an estimated 600 nuclear warheads. This marks a fundamental shift in the global balance of power. For decades, the nuclear landscape was dominated by the United States and Russia, with China a distant third. That era is over. China's rapid expansion forces urgent questions. Why now? What does it mean for global security? This news lands in a world already on edge, from Ukraine to the South China Sea. China's nuclear surge changes the strategic calculations in Washington, Moscow, and New Delhi. The architecture of global security built after the Cold War is being tested. We are entering a new nuclear age, one with three major players. During the Cold War, mutually assured destruction created a grim but stable standoff. The US and Soviet Union managed their arsenals through treaties and communication. Now China's rise complicates this dynamic. The old rules may no longer apply. The story of China's nuclear program is one of patience, then sudden speed. For years, China maintained a policy of minimum deterrence, just enough to survive and retaliate. But 600 warheads signals a dramatic change. This is no longer about survival, but about military equality with the US. The dragon is not just awake, it's showing its new, sharper teeth. The consequences are only beginning to unfold. The numbers tell a startling story. In 2020, China's arsenal was just over 200 warheads. By 2023, it surpassed 400. Now it's 600. China has tripled its stockpile in 5 years, a pace unseen among established nuclear powers. The US and Russia still have far larger arsenals, but China's rapid growth is unprecedented. Projections suggest China could reach 1,000 warheads by 2030, rivaling the deployed forces of the US and Russia. This is not just about numbers. China is building over 300 new missile silos in its western deserts. These silos, designed for intercontinental ballistic missiles, signal a shift to a launch-on-warning posture, ready to fire at the first sign of attack. This increases the risk of miscalculation in a crisis. Compared to India and Pakistan, each with under 200 warheads, China's surge is staggering. The UK and France, long-established nuclear powers, have been surpassed. China's rise creates a new tier of nuclear power between the smaller states and the two superpowers. The global nuclear hierarchy is being rearranged. This new reality is more complicated and more dangerous. The world must now contend with a multipolar nuclear order. The pace and scale of China's buildup have caught the world's attention. The implications are profound. The nuclear landscape will never be the same. China's nuclear surge is about quality as much as quantity. Beijing is modernizing its entire nuclear force, aiming for a sophisticated, survivable arsenal. Old liquid-fueled missiles are being replaced by solid-fueled mobile systems. Faster to launch, harder to target. China is building a true nuclear triad: land-based missiles, submarine-launched missiles, and air-launched weapons. New, quieter submarines and the upcoming H-20 stealth bomber will give China credible sea and air-based deterrence. China is also investing in hypersonic glide vehicles, maneuverable, high-speed weapons that can evade missile defenses. The US sees China's hypersonic program as a top security concern. This modernization is a shift from minimum deterrence to a posture that projects power. An arsenal of 600 warheads, a modern triad, and hypersonic weapons provide China with a range of military options. This could deter US intervention in regional conflicts or intimidate neighbors. China's strategy is no longer just about survival, it's about influence. The world must adapt to a China that is not just defending itself, but seeking parity with the world's strongest militaries. The nuclear balance is shifting, the stakes are higher than ever. The era of minimum deterrence is over. To understand China's nuclear buildup, we must see the world through Beijing's eyes. Chinese leaders perceive a hostile environment, with the US and its allies encircling China. A larger, modern arsenal is seen as insurance, deterring American pressure and guaranteeing sovereignty. Taiwan is central. China's nuclear force is designed to make US intervention in a Taiwan conflict too risky. Prestige matters too. President Xi wants China to be a world-class power, and a top-tier nuclear arsenal is part of that vision. Achieving nuclear parity is both a military and political goal. Officially, China claims its policy hasn't changed and maintains a no-first-use stance. But the scale and speed of the buildup tell a different story. The gap between China's words and actions is growing. The world is left to wonder, is this about defense or ambition? China's intentions remain opaque. The uncertainty is fueling global anxiety. China's nuclear expansion is sending shockwaves across the globe. In Asia, India is accelerating its own nuclear modernization, developing longer-range missiles and completing its triad. Pakistan, in turn, is expanding its arsenal, focusing on tactical nuclear weapons to deter India. This creates a volatile three-way nuclear competition in South Asia, raising the risk of miscalculation. In Washington, China's buildup is forcing a major rethink of U.S. nuclear strategy. For the first time, the U.S. must plan for two near-peer nuclear adversaries, Russia and China. Some argue the U.S. may need to increase its own arsenal, potentially igniting a new arms race. This is not the Cold War's bipolar contest. It's a multipolar, unpredictable race with fewer rules and less communication. The lack of dialogue, especially between the U.S. and China, makes the situation more perilous. Europe is watching closely, as a U.S. pivot to Asia could leave it more vulnerable. The world is becoming armed and dangerous at a pace not seen in decades. The early stages of a new global arms race are here. The risks are multiplying. The old playbook no longer applies. The stakes are global. The arms race is real and accelerating. The world must find a way to break this cycle. The alternative is too dangerous to contemplate. Nations worldwide are scrambling to adapt. Japan, long anti-nuclear, is debating new defense options as trust in old security guarantees erodes. In Europe, the UK and France are modernizing their arsenals, citing China's rise. South Korea and Australia are reassessing their security, with some in Seoul even supporting indigenous nuclear weapons. China's buildup undermines the spirit of the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, sending a message that nuclear arms equal security and prestige. This could trigger further proliferation. The world is growing more unstable. Nuclear experts are sounding the alarm. Hans Christensen calls China's buildup breathtaking. Hundreds of new silos mean a force on high alert, raising the risk of catastrophic mistakes. Dr. Fiona Cunningham notes China wants strategic stability on its own terms, making U.S. intervention in Taiwan prohibitively costly. But what one side sees as stabilizing, the other sees as threatening, a classic security dilemma. James Acton warns that secrecy is as dangerous as numbers. China's refusal to discuss its doctrine fuels worst-case assumptions. The lack of dialogue prevents guardrails that could prevent conflict. The nuclear taboo, 75 years without use, is at risk. As more countries rely on nuclear weapons, the chance of use rises. The spiral of mistrust and buildup is accelerating. The world is entering uncharted territory. The risk of nuclear use is growing. The need for transparency and dialogue has never been greater. The stakes are existential. Nuclear arms control is unraveling. Cold War treaties like SALT and START provided stability, but today, that framework is collapsing. China, once too small to join talks, now has 600 warheads and is still absent from the table. The US has invited China to strategic stability talks, but Beijing refuses, citing American advantages in missile defense and conventional weapons. Without China's participation, risk reduction measures and crisis hotlines are impossible. The future of arms control looks bleak. The US is reconsidering its own posture, with some arguing that any new agreement must include China. If China refuses, the world could face an unconstrained three-way arms race. This is a future no one wants. Yet it's the path we're on. We stand at a critical fork in the road. China's 600 warheads mark a turning point for global security. One path leads to a new, unpredictable arms race. The other, to diplomacy and renewed arms control. The US, Russia, and China must recognize their shared responsibility to prevent nuclear war. This starts with dialogue and transparency. The choices made now will shape the future. Will leaders step back from the brink, or will rivalry prevail? The demand for peace must come from all of us. The rapid growth of China's arsenal is a symptom of a deeper breakdown in global cooperation. The time for urgent action is now.